Welcome back, guys. We are going into episode 2 of the Turbo S2K build. Today, we're going to go ahead and start with removing the turbo. No, we're going to be installing the turbo manifold. We're going to be removing the factory header, exhaust manifold, whatever you would like to call it, and get our turbo manifold put on. So I have to find a 12 millimeter, and we can pull those exhaust bolts off, get the header pulled off, and start mocking everything up. I'm really excited to see it come together. I've been kind of keeping all these parts, that way I can go ahead and just do the whole build series all at once. I know you guys don't like to watch the S2000 content, but I'm ready to get working on it. So that's what we're gonna do. Anyways, get the hood open, 12 millimeter, exhaust manifold, take it off, throw it in the trash, give it the boot, and yeah, we'll go from there. So these are the exhaust manifold bolts that we're going to be taking off. There's a total of like 7 of them. You could also look at your new manifold. If you ever don't know how many of anything or where something goes is, you can always look at a part you're replacing with and kind of get an idea. So you can see that there's 3 here, and then 1 dead center. So there's 7 total. That means if you don't get 7 off here, you're either missing 1 or you're missing 1. 2 different kind of missings though. I do hope you guys enjoy the S2000 content once we actually get going. I might have to use a ratchet, but I mean, I think this would be a really fun car. I enjoyed the little bit of driving I did do with it. I haven't done much because, well, it was winter. Now it's still kind of not making its mind up, but I'm ready to get driving. And I would love for this to be done for the summer. Go on some date nights with it and take it to some car shows. We've now got all 7 of those bolts off. What we're going to do, let's go ahead, move down here, get up underneath, and remove the manifold from the catalytic converter itself. That way we can go ahead and pull it out. I do believe that this comes out the top, so we'll pull it up from the engine bay. I'm hoping that's true because that would make it a lot easier. I guess we'll go ahead and find out. That's what we're here for. All right, so I now believe and hope that I have gotten, oh, I got 1 more bolt. See, I didn't count them. I got 6 here. I got 1 more right there. But after that bolt comes off, this should be good to just pull out. Cross my fingers. So I'm gonna grab the 12 real quick, pull it off, go from there. So all the 12s have been pulled off. I haven't touched this yet. I'm hoping that we have clearance to just come straight up, which we may or may not. I'll have to put you down for a second. So it actually looks like it comes out better from the bottom. So I'm gonna try, slide it through. If not, then I'll come back up, try and pull it out. Our OE exhaust manifold is now out of the way, which means we can actually go ahead and grab our new turbo manifold and put it in place, kind of mock it up, see what everything's going to look like, where it's going to sit, you know, that fun stuff. Came out the bottom super easy. If you have access to jack stands and jacks, I would recommend it. It was fighting me a little bit trying to come out the top. You probably could get it if you took the heat shields off, but the way that I have it set up currently, went right out the bottom, didn't give me any sort of issues. Grab the new manifold, throw it on, and see how it looks. Well, for our first hang up, we are actually going to have to remove the VTEC solenoid. We'll have to put it back, but in order for us to fit that manifold past it, we need to remove it, which is not that big of a deal. It's just in the way. So we'll go ahead, we'll remove it, and then we'll put her back, and it'll be a-okay. Like nothing ever happened. One thing we'll probably do, because it sits so close to the manifold, is either wrap it in gold foil or see if somebody makes an aftermarket shield for it, and we'll go from there. Ambulance. So we've just kind of set that off to the side. We've unplugged it. It is now sitting in my mess. We can go ahead, put our new manifold on, and see what it looks like. Well, that VTEC solenoid and switch is our first problem, but I do believe I have a fix for that. I think what we'll have to do is just get a 90-degree fitting and point it off to the side there, and that should work. We are gonna go ahead now and mount up the turbo, at least the hot side of it. And this is just mocking it up. This isn't our final installation, but I have new bolts and studs. I gotta Loctite the studs, that way they don't come out, because all of them are pretty dang loose right now, so I don't really care for that to happen and have to redo the job twice. On the bright side, turbo's up top and super easy to get to, so shouldn't be a huge problem. More so what I'm doing right now is checking the clock of the turbo, making sure that the oil feed and oil drain are in accessible locations, because if they're not, then we're gonna have more issues. If you guys remember the video I made on fixing the shift knob on the Mark 8, same stuff we're gonna use. This time I'm not going to get it all over myself. I'm going to be a little bit more liberal here with my application, because like I said, I don't really want them to come back out unless I have to force them back out. That's a different story, but I don't want them to back out while we're running the car. So that's what we're going to make sure doesn't happen. So how you're going to do this is pretty much the same exact process as if you were doing it on, let's say, the Mark 8 shifter. We're going to take this guy, take one end, take our freaking stuff here, our Loctite, and just give it a nice good coat every like quarter turn or so, and then that way when you're threading it in, it'll actually spread it around those threads. This stuff, at least this one in particular, sets up pretty quick, so I'm gonna go ahead and toss this on. Those are setting up right now, so while those are setting up, I'm gonna go ahead and get the turbo ready and get my new nuts unpackaged. When you're clocking a turbo, and specifically the portion where, let's say, your oil feed and your oil drain are sitting and are going, you want your oil feed to be up top, oil drain to be on the bottom, because the way that your oil drain works is it's gravity assisted. So when your turbo is draining, it's using gravity to pull it back into your oil pan, or in our case, the timing cover, then to the oil pan. And what that's going to do is essentially prevent oil buildup inside of the turbo, and then you burn it off through your blow seals, both of which are really not good. So just do yourself a favor, take the extra time, make sure everything's set in the correct orientation, and you'll be good to go. In this case, I don't know if I'm going to be fortunate enough to run it straight up and down, simply because of our support bar on the factory S2000 body. So what I may do, I might either keep it kind of how it is at a 15-20 degree angle. That way I can drain in front and just come out of the bottom into the timing chain, or the timing cover itself. Or I might rotate this depending on where our wastegates end up sitting. I just don't want it super close to that manifold. I really don't care to heat that hose up. That's how the Datsun caught fire. Kind of. Anyways, we will be running a turbo blanket because it sits so close to the paint. I don't really care to warp and crack, flake the paint in the engine bay. And then, like I said, depending on where that wastegate sits, will kind of depend or determine where we're going to run that oil return line. Maybe I could run a heat sleeve over it and keep it cool, at least as cool as I could. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So Justice is really keen on candy purple. So what we're going to do is actually take our turbo cold side, the pretty silver portion that you usually see, and candy purple powder coat it. That's kind of the accent color that she's wanting to go with. So we're gonna do candy purple on the brakes, the turbo, and probably a couple other bits here and there, but that's what she wants. And she's still mad at me for getting rid of the Datsun, so whatever I can do to make her happy, except for paint the whole car purple. I didn't find an S2000 that looked good completely painted purple, so that's not on the table. But everything else we can manage. So I put a cover over the turbo, even though we're probably not going to be using this turbo. It's just a little bit too big for the setup. It doesn't really fit very well over this frame support right here. So I'm gonna have to go probably with a smaller size. A smaller size being like a GT30, some sort of a variant within that realm. Something smaller than a GT35, which I think is what this turbo is based off of. But nonetheless, got a lot done, at least a little bit done. Not as much as I would have liked. Biggest issue we're running into now, besides the turbo. The turbo is pretty easy to sort out. Is actually just the VTEC solenoid, more so the switch side of it. I'm probably going to have to relocate the switch down to where the oil pressure switch is, and maybe reverse the two. I really don't know. I've got to come up with something, because with Honda, you don't have the ability to shut off the VTEC switch. So with other aftermarket ECUs, you can actually shut the switch off. You won't need the switch anymore, and you can still run VTEC on Honda, the K Pro, for the S2000. That's not an option. So I've got to get creative and got to figure out a way to run that, whether that's some sort of 90-degree fitting that I can still put that switch onto and have it activate, or if I have to move the oil pressure sensor and do it that way. Unfortunately, it's probably where today's video is going to end, because there's not really much else I can do. So next time we will be pulling the timing cover off and replacing it with our new billet aluminum CNC, whatever. It's super nice. I do need to wash it out, get metal shavings out of that, but that's going to be a nice piece to the puzzle. It's going to make draining the turbo a whole lot easier, and routing all that. So without further ado, guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button, comment, subscribe. I will catch you next time. Peace.